Hi everyone, thank you for waiting. We just wanted to give enough people a chance to come on. Just before we get started, I am going to quickly check if we can get Frank on here as well. Just give me 1 minute. Hi Frank, can you hear me?
I think I'm alive. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Wonderful. Thanks. That's awesome.
So Frank, I'll just leave your own controls up to yourself now, and we'll get started. So again, hello everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us here tonight, or indeed if you're unable to make it tonight, for all of those who are catching up on the recording afterwards. With that note, I will let everybody know that we are recording the presentation and we'll make it available for anyone who wants to view it after the meeting. And I'll send out a link to the video as well as feedback forms to anyone who has got in touch. These will also be available on the Spring Creek ARP website, which I will put up at the end of the presentation. First of all, my name is Myra McNamee. I'm a planner working with McElhaney, and I've been working with Spring Creek Mountain Village as well for about 4 years. And as you see, I'm joined tonight by Frank Kernick, president of Spring Creek Mountain Village. So our main focus tonight is to gather your input on the amendments that we will present to you in the coming slides. Before we submit an application to the town, we want to ensure that we have considered your thoughts, updated the proposal where necessary, and mitigated any concerns that you might have. So we're going to start with a couple of slides that Frank is going to introduce and talk about the history of Spring Creek. Frank, if you want to fire away.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, that's you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mari for waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning in Ireland. She was a Camera resident, but about a month ago decided to move her and the family back to Ireland. And we're halfway through the process of doing the land use redesignations for some of the things from my hotel sites in Spring Creek. And it's been wonderful that we've been able to, through technology and the way the world is today, to be able to keep you involved in the Spring Creek project. And I just want to thank you for that and your family for letting you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Thanks, Frank.
You're welcome. With it, I just really, I don't know who's on listening today, but probably most of the people know a little bit of the history of Spring Creek. But I thought I'd just, for the people that maybe don't, the Spring Creek property is 70 acres, and it was originally my grandfather's dairy farm. My grandfather and grandmother moved there in 1927 and started the Camera Dairy and provided the milk to all the miners back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. In the 50s, the dairy farm was closed, and my father and uncle started Restful Trail Park and Cabins and started building a mobile home park and a campground, and that's what I grew up helping out doing as a kid and putting water sewer lines in and been involved killing mushrooms and cutting grass. And it built out to approximately 220 mobile home sites and 300 campsites at the build out. In 2002, I bought it from my family, my father and uncle. I'd already been doing land development in Canmore since 1990, Canyon Close, Grottomona Village, Eagle Terrace, and bought it off the family in 2002 as the family was headed up for sale, and I realized that it's important to keep in the family. And this is, as I tell everyone, this is my legacy project. It's been in the family since almost 100 years. And it's important for me that it's done right. With that, that's why we're doing some changes here today, because as you do land development, you always find that there's things that can be done better, and there's little tweaks that are needed. And with that, as you develop, you want to make sure everything is built the way I want it. And it is my dream, it is my vision, And I want to make sure nothing's compromised and we complete it the way I really envision it. On completion, will be around 800 to 1,200 residential units, and what we're proposing now is 240 hotel rooms. Originally, my approvals, I had 200 hotel rooms approved in 2004. My original proposal back in 2002 had 550 hotel rooms, but we reduced it down and increased our residential units. We're now looking to with fine-tuning our design and development, we're looking to that we actually can, through more detailed planning, do additional hotel rooms that will fall in line with the Malcolm Hotel that are built there already. Mario will tell you a little bit more of that. You want to go to the next slide? A little bit, this is just quickly an overview of the plan of the landscaping we've done to date. A build-out will have 2.5 kilometers of trails along the creek. Previously, it was campground sites and roads right along the edge of the creeks and mobile home sites, but we pulled the development away from the creek. You know, we have 4-story buildings in the center of the project and generally 2.5-story buildings along the creek edge to give more of a rural feel along the creek edge or more of an urban feel in the center of the project. To the top of the page there, you'll see the 2 future hotel sites. The Malcolm Hotel has already been built, 124 units. When we reconnect the next hotel to that, it'll go down 123 with the conference center. And you can see the lands to the south that will slowly progress probably over the next 6 to 10 years minimum for build out of Spring Creek. And with that, I'll allow, I think it's your turn, Mary, to talk about the design, the land use changes that we're proposing just to move forward Spring Creek with the vision that I want to see as we progress.
Thanks, Frank. So just to go into a little bit more detail of Spring Creek Mountain Village development so far. As Frank had mentioned, an area redevelopment plan, including urban design guidelines for the entire Spring Creek Mountain Village site, was approved by Council back in 2004. Land use and subdivision approvals have been granted for stages 1, 2, and 3. And those stages have been developed and are still underway for residential, mixed use, commercial, and visitor accommodation. So to continue with the progression of Spring Creek Mountain Village, we are proposing a number of land use bylaw and ARP amendments to help align the development with the initial intent of the overall ARP. Firstly, we're proposing minor land use map adjustments to revise the boundaries between the hotel and the residential lots. We're also updating the wording of the creek setback regulation within the land use bylaw to provide certainty for design while remaining as intended originally. We're making some minor amendments to the roof heights in a small area of the hotel buildings. This is to balance the overall design of the structures with the sudden road drop off in that area. And finally, we're amending the boundary of the ARP to include 2 residential parcels just north of the proposed Alexander Hotel. And this is to align with the proposed lot line adjustment that you will see in the coming slides. So just to give you a bit of detail on the proposed development itself, detailed planning and design is now underway for this remainder part of stage 1, which will contain 2 unique landmark hotels on the northern edge of Spring Creek Mountain Village and 3 residential parcels as well. The hotel sites can be seen here in blue, labeled H1 and H2. L1 to L3 identify the 3 residential lots, which we are also considering. The overall vision set out in the Spring Creek Mountain Village ARP is to create a distinct new urban neighbourhood with a variety of residential, commercial, and open space land uses within this pedestrian-oriented street network. So as each stage of Spring Creek Mountain Village's development progresses through detailed design and subdivision, new challenges and constraints are sometimes identified, and it's often necessary then to consider regulation or policy amendments to advance the development in accordance with the ARP vision and reflective of subject land conditions. So the specifics of the hotels. First of all, we have the Alexander Hotel, and you can see it highlighted on the left-hand side of the image here. This hotel is proposed on the west side of Spring Creek Drive, adjacent to the Malcolm Hotel. The hotel will function as a health and wellness retreat, and it will accommodate approximately 55 guest rooms, 64 on-site parking stalls, and a spa facility. The structure is comprised of 3 stories and a partially underground parkade, as well as an underground connection to the existing Malcolm Hotel. Next, we have the Kernick Place Hotel on the right-hand side of the image here. This will be situated on the east side of Spring Creek Drive. The location is proposed to operate as a family-oriented hotel and includes approximately 49 guest rooms, 56 on-site parking stalls, and an upper floor restaurant. The building will also be 3 stories and a partially underground parkade, and the restaurant located on the southeastern corner of the building will also include a vaulted area featuring tall ceilings and a glazed facade. A 3rd floor connecting walkway is proposed between the Kernick Place Hotel and the Malcolm, spine over Spring Creek Drive. That's where this section comes in. This walkway will be similar to the likes of the +15s that you may be familiar with in Calgary. This rendering we had done up back in the early days of Spring Creek Mountain Village's preliminary design stages. Now, adding to this as well, and just north of the proposed Alexander Hotel site, on the west side of Spring Creek Drive, there are 3 individual residential lots backing onto the creek. These 2 smaller lots to the west have been developed as one residential parcel. It's proposed that a boundary adjustment occur to change the property lines of these parcels to create 2 residential lots fronting onto Spring Creek Drive. This boundary adjustment will also incorporate the amalgamation of an unused road plan, which is currently being proposed to be closed and combined with these residential lots. The road closure would bring the property into line with the 2 existing lots and will have no impact on the laneway. So basically that's this little section here where those lots drop off. So this next slide, you'll see an overlay of what the new lot lines are proposed to look like in green. The adjustment here is also going to take in the Alexander Hotel. This modification to the hotel site will allow for a more efficiently designed building, creating an end facade perpendicular to the road and matching the lot for the Kernick Place Hotel. This increase in lot size to the Alexander Hotel parcel will only be an increase of 5.6%. So it's an insignificant amount, but will create that better design for those parcels and those buildings. So in conjunction with these boundary adjustments, it will also be necessary to carry out some minor edits to the land use bylaw maps to properly align the R1 district for the residential lots and the Spring Creek Mountain Village Visitor Accommodation District, the DC district, for the hotel lot. So the map adjustments will also include the provision of environmental reserve along Spring Creek Bank. As standard for the town of Canmore, the environmental reserve will be zoned environmental district. So this is reflective of the lot amendments you've seen in the previous slide, and this is just to show the land use bylaw map amendments. So on to the next proposed amendment. Within the land use bylaw and the area redevelopment plan, regulation currently provides support for a creek setback variance due to the constraints of this section of Spring Creek Mountain Village. It's quite a narrow area of land. The future hotels propose to avail of this flexibility. However, the proposed edits to the land use bylaw will offer that bit more certainty for the 15-metre setback at this crucial point of the development proposal. As you can see from the imagery, and as Frank mentioned earlier, in the past, this particular site had been developed right to the top of the bank. Previous homes, cabins and RV sites in the wider plan area all encroached and impacted quite negatively on Placemans Creek and on Spring Creek. This northern portion of the plan area has already made a significantly positive impact to the environment by removing the previously existing structures from the creek edge. So these buildings are no longer there. Considering the narrowing of the site and the location of the road in this area, it's proposed that the 15-metre setback be established for the hotels rather than remain as variance. There's no deviation from the intent of the existing regulation, and this is just to offer certainty for the design of the development. In relation to the residential lots, there is no proposal to edit the R1 district for the land use bylaw to allow for additional flexibility, as this would then obviously impact R1 districts right throughout the town, and that would not be recommended. Alternatively, future development of these properties will call upon variance powers of the Development Authority as prescribed in the land use bylaw and in response to the topographical constraints of the site. The ARP, excuse me, the ARP policy will be amended here, as you can see in the second paragraph. This will be just to include those residential lots, so they'll have that inclusion with the policy of the ARP. The next amendment proposal is for the building height zones. So this map you can see on the right-hand side of the screen has been edited to apply the Zone A in red, as you can see here and here, to the northern end of both of the proposed hotels. I'm sure many of you are aware the finished grades of Spring Creek Drive and the surrounding lands dips quite significantly on this stretch. Therefore, the design requires additional flexibility for a very small section of the buildings, and this increase would not be required otherwise. This will support the design of a highly visual gateway feature on entering Spring Creek Mountain Village. The edit allows for these elements to be constructed to a maximum of 16 meters for the creation of two landmark buildings incorporating dramatic roof forms and providing a sense of place. This is in alignment as well with the Spring Creek Mountain Village urban design guidelines, the creation of these nodes, so to speak. So the intent of distinguishing this location as a gateway reinforces the northern edge of the district. And as per the next couple of slides, you'll see some view shed figures. We have no concern that there would be any negative impact on the existing or prospective neighbours. So here you can see a rendering of the north end of the two hotels. This is on Spring Creek Drive coming from the town centre side. And this image is showing the building models as they would be with the current allowance of 12 metres, along with the variances that are provided within the district. And this slide shows the buildings as they would look with the incorporation of the proposed amendment to the height zones. So this would allow a 16-metre tower feature. As you can see, the additional roof height creates a distinctive landmark feature framing the streetscape and creating an inviting public realm for pedestrians, cyclists, auto traffic alike. So while this additional height immediately improves the sense of space and location for the area, it doesn't create any noticeable impact on views or neighbouring properties. So I'm just going to go back to the previous slide again so you can see this. This is how it would be with the existing current regulation. And this is with that additional tower feature. Really impactful. This next view shed, this is the first model again with the current 12-metre height standard with the variance as well. This time it's moving north on Spring Creek Drive towards the town centre. And again, it's a really nice enclosed space for creating that gateway feeling. And here we have the alternative 16-metre zone applied to the small area at the north end of the buildings. Again, as you can see, it's insignificant in terms of the massing of the building, yet it's really impactful for the architectural design. And our next amendment addresses the visitor accommodation units. So currently the hotel room count is at 124. Therefore, an additional 40 units are being requested to bring the total at build out to 240. So in the earlier rounds of drafting the ARP and the DC district, the hotel unit count was originally proposed at 550 units. Prior to adoption, tourist home numbers within Spring Creek Mountain Village increased by 150 units, and the hotel count was subsequently reduced to 200. At the time, these numbers were a preliminary figure. They were based on initial drawings and calculations. And as the detailed design of Spring Creek Mountain Village has progressed, these numbers have inevitably advanced to reflect a more accurate final product. As per policy in the ARP, a traffic generation update has been carried out by Michael Haney. The initial traffic study was carried out back in 2003, which informed the development of the 2004 ARP. So based on the results from the recent traffic review for this proposal, at full build out, Spring Creek Mountain Village is estimated to generate less traffic than what had been previously assumed for the site in 2003. Travel behaviour in the town of Canmore has likely evolved over the past 16 years, where non-motorised modes such as walking and biking are favoured over the traditional personal vehicles as the main form of transportation. So Spring Creek Drive at Main Street itself is not expected to exceed the 3,000 vehicles per day threshold. These numbers factor in the increase in the total number of hotel rooms at this end of Spring Creek Mountain Village. It's worth noting that the total number of hotel rooms is actually less than the number estimated in 2003. So this shouldn't be viewed as purely an increase in hotel rooms. Again, the traffic analysis shows that the current estimated total number of hotel rooms is not expected to push the total vehicles per day at Main Street over the limit established in the ARP. And of course, as part of future development phases within Spring Creek Mountain Village, Spring Creek Drive will continue to be monitored and evaluated to ensure traffic volume goals are achieved. Our next set of amendments are for the parking provisions. This is more of a general tidy up within our district. So recent changes within the Land Use Bylaw have seen greatly reduced parking requirements throughout Canmore. This is obviously in keeping with best practice trends in parking management, and it's occurring in many sustainably conscious municipalities throughout Canada. So what we're proposing here is that the specific parking regulations within both DC districts are updated to reference the existing general parking regulations that are within the Land Use Bylaw. Generally speaking, this won't impact the visitor accommodation requirements too much, as one stall will still be required per unit or room. However, when we look at the residential district, DC district, this will mean a minimum of one stall per townhouse or a minimum of one stall for a 1 to 3 bedroom apartment. That's instead of the current regulation that requires a minimum of 1.5 stalls for a 2 bedroom or 2 stalls for a 3 bedroom. So again, this is just to bring our parking regulation into alignment with parking regulation for the rest of the town. And our final amendment that is being proposed is for the actual boundary of the area redevelopment plan. The proposed boundary adjustment of the residential lots north of the proposed Alexander Hotel that we previously discussed, it incorporates one lot that is currently within the ARP boundary and 2 which are outside of the boundary. Therefore, an adjustment to the ARP boundary is being proposed to include these other 2 lots. This is a closer look at the 2 additional lots. And as seen in previous slides, these lots will be realigned to create those 2 residential parcels fronting onto Spring Creek Drive, creating a more efficient developable space. Part of the lots will be handed over to the town as well, and that will be for environmental reserve, offering much needed protection of the creek banks. So the future owners of the lots will also avail then of the benefits of being part of the Spring Creek Property Owners Association. And this includes certain benefits such as being part of the close community, involvement in social events, local connections and support. So to summarize, before we take your questions, and I'll just add in here, if anybody does have any comments or questions, please feel free to put them into the chat, and we will get to those questions right away. I'd just like to round up what we've discussed tonight. As further development of Spring Creek Mountain Village occurs, some flexibility is needed to allow these minor architectural design changes that will enhance the design of the buildings and the area. The amendments you've seen tonight will create an iconic entry point into Spring Creek Mountain Village, maintain the authentic Canmore Alpine architecture, enhance the overall design of the development, and do so in respect of the topographical features in this area. Overall, the proposed amendments to the Spring Creek Mountain Village Visitor Accommodation DC District and the Spring Creek Mountain Village Area Redevelopment Plan are in keeping with the true spirit and intent of the development and are not anticipated to have negative effects on adjacent land uses or deviate from what has been planned since 2004. And once again, our main focus tonight is to gather your feedback. So we hope to have a final submission with the town in the near future, and your comments will shape that. All feedback will be collected and provided as part of the application. And once an application is in with the town, there will still be the usual process of 3 readings and another opportunity for you to have input with the public hearing. Okay. Let's just see if we have any chats.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Frank.
Thank you, Mari, for the presentation. You did a wonderful job on that. And yeah, we are totally open to questions at this time. If you want to send them to the chat is best. And if it doesn't happen today and you have other questions in the future, feel free to send them, Mari. We will do our best to answer them. Plus also fill out that context sheet, question sheets, and if you have any comments, we appreciate those. They'll form part of our presentation that we will put in our package when we do our final submission. Again, this is just really an open house. I like doing open houses prior to a submission to council. There will be the opportunity also for a public hearing for these amendments when we actually do the submission to the town of Canmore. They'll have first reading. They will have a opportunity for a public hearing, and then generally second and third reading. So at this point, we're trying to get the information, comments, questions. We'll take those. We'll amend our application based on what we feel is appropriate, and then we'll probably do our submission in December to the town of Canmore. I expect probably the public hearing in January or February, and the approvals or whatever they end up being sometime in February, March, or April. So questions, Mari, do you have any that we want to start with?
Yeah, so we had a couple come in prior to the actual presentation for people that weren't available to attend.
Yep.
First of all, we have a question. Previously, there were some discussions and thoughts around having a dog park on the north side of the development. I was wondering what the status of this is.
First, it really has nothing to do with this application, but I'll answer it anyways. It was on the east side of Spring Creek, closer to where all the construction has been happening across from the NW, in the MR lands that are now owned by the town of Canmore that I turned over to the town of Canmore about 10 years ago. They are still considering it, is my understanding, but at this point, they opened up other dog parks in town, and right now it's on hold. So we're not planning anything. Spring Creek neither supports or is against it as a company. The Property Owners Association have different feelings that most of the people half support it, half don't. So it's in the town of Cameron hands at this time. Nothing planned in the immediate future.
Thanks, Frank. So next we have, what is the actual number of parking spaces that are being removed as a result of the changes?
There's no parking spaces removed as part of changes. As a matter of fact, with the boundary adjustment for the hotel, we're probably adding 1 or 2 additional parking spaces and some additional mechanical space, with a slight 5% increase in the land area that we're adding to the hotel. And I think it adds 1 or 2 additional parking spaces. It just changes, reduces the size of the residential lot down slightly. So no loss of parking spaces.
Exactly. Thanks, Frank. With the heights proposed for both Kernick and Alexander, what is the ground reference, the existing soil, or the roadway?
Well, the road exists. We built that a couple of years ago with the town of Cameron. We had to drop off to the existing grade of the existing road when we hit the existing residential lots. Throughout Spring Creek, I raised all the land about 4 feet. From the beginning of the Spring Creek, when I bought it from the family, to the end of it, there was only 2 meters of grade through 70 acres of property. There was no, and if you look at the old trailer park, there's always low spots and water always sitting there because we had no grade. So we raised the grade throughout Spring Creek Drive in the middle of the property to allow for storm drainage and to make sure our parkades were out of the ground. The 2 new hotels will be roughly the slab elevation of the first floor will be the same elevation as the Malcolm Hotel. And the parkades will be, the bottom of the parkade slab elevation will be the same elevation as the Malcolm Hotel. Generally, that is from the existing grade where the old farmhouse was. We'd be about 4 feet below where the old farmhouse and the old shop was. If you see the concrete slabs that are there today, we generally go about 4 feet down and we go about 6 feet up.
Thanks, Frank. We have a couple of questions that are asking for renderings of the creekside view of the hotels. This includes the location of balconies, noise abatement issues.
Yeah, this is so preliminary. This is at land use stage. We did these renderings that we show you right now are just really to do a volume estimate, number of room estimate. The design of the hotel is far away. It cost me about $200,000 a hotel to get them to a design development stage. We want to get to certainty in heights, certainty in setbacks before we take it to the next level. As far as the Alexander Hotel goes, they will have an outdoor patio for the spa that will have an outdoor hot tub is my vision. Maybe an indoor wood-fired sauna, but that's basically the extent of the outdoor. The outdoor patios, each room will have an outdoor patio. That is my vision, as we do in the Malcolm Hotel, for people to sit and enjoy the views when they want to be out there. They'll be small. Generally, we only go about 5 feet deep. But we have no renderings at this time. On a Kernick Place Hotel, they might be a little bit larger because it's a family-oriented hotel that will have a little bit larger patios, maybe fire tables for families to sit out there and enjoy the views in the cold winter days and the summer days here either. But there's no renderings at this time. We can send you a volume analysis, but it really means not a lot at this time. Where it gives you a good feel for what we're doing, but it's not exactly what we're doing at this time. And we will have that probably in about 6 months. We will have a little better idea, the actual look of the hotels a little more detailed.
Thanks, Frank. What guarantees that the amendments for the R1 lots won't be changed and expanded just like is happening with the hotels?
Well, it is my intent, that's why I'm presenting it today, to take 3 residential lots to make 2. The reality is that You know, I mean, in the Town of Canberra Land Use Bylaw, there's minimum size of lots you have to have and minimum setbacks you have to have. As long as you meet those minimums, I guess, yeah, we could do additional lots, additional number of units. But my intent and my word, as everyone knows me in Canmore, is my word's my word. I do what I say I'm going to do. I have never changed. I've always done what I said I'm going to do. So I'm doing 2 residential lots, and I'm going to have the setbacks as per the Town of Canberra bylaws on those 2 residential lots.
The parking provisions are changing from 1.3 to 1 per townhouse. How many parking lots are available for each hotel and employees? Specifically, what are the total of parking spaces proposed?
I think you told the total parking spaces proposed in both hotels. That's, again, preliminary. We will fine tune that as we do a final design. And that's, we've always met the Town of Canberra Land Use Bylaw. All I can assure everyone is that the building beside the Malcolm Hotel, Runnicliffe Lodge, we met the Town of Canberra Bylaw, and we have still empty spaces I cannot sell. The old Town of Canberra Bylaw made us produce more parking than was required. Hotels will fluctuate more than residential. There's higher demand at times than other times, but we do have over 100 parking stalls on street at build-out of Spring Creek. So I'm not concerned. There will be, as we do have downtown Canberra, times that parking will be maxed, but it's rare. And no one's going to be parking on other areas. I'm more concerned about the Town of Canberra going to paid parking and pushing that paid parking stalls into Spring Creek. So that's why we've been working with the Town of Canberra of restricting the number of hours people can park in Spring Creek, so we don't get overloaded with people that are working downtown Canberra parking in Spring Creek.
And just to add to that, we have preliminary 64 stalls within the Alexander and 56 within the Kernick, and they are on-site parking stalls. So the next question we have here, it sounds like the actual number of hotel rooms is less than the 240 maximum being sought. 123 plus 49 plus 49. Why the difference? Is there any chance an amendment to current plans would result in bigger footprint? So it's actually 124 at the minute and 55 for the Alexander and 49, again, preliminary designs.
I'll answer that as, again, these are preliminary designs. And so, yes, there's a few additional rooms we're asking for because we don't want to have to go back to council. It might be 125, it might be 240. These are preliminary designs. They're block diagrams. We have not gone into detailed design. So the reality is this is a max of 240. It could end up 225. It could be 230. So it's a max. We're not, right now, this is so high level design.
We have another comment here. Very clear explanation of the architectural and lot boundary changes related to the new hotels. These appear to facilitate design improvements. The land use bylaw parking changes for Spring Creek to reduce parking requirements for 2 and 3 bedroom units are a significant change from current parking requirements for lands already developed. What are the expected effects on street parking?
Should be no expected effects. The current bylaw is a minimum that you must supply, and we have as again I said, there's buildings we have additional parking stalls that we could not sell because there's no demand. The Town of Canberra changed it from a minimum to that's a maximum now we can build for parking stalls, which I agree with, and their minimums are way less. I will always probably provide more parking, way more parking than the minimums in all my residential buildings. They'll be probably very close always to the maximum. So we're just trying to follow the Town of Canberra's lead, which was correct, and not overbuilding parking and overbuilding facilities that are sitting vacant. So the on-street parking is meant for commercial on Spring Creek Drive and visitor parking on Spring Creek Muse roads. And that's why we're also, again, changing the signage on both the Spring Creek Drive and the Muse roads to Muse roads are only a maximum 24 hours of visitor parking only. So people don't park motorhomes or trucks or vehicles there for a month at a time. And the Spring Creek Drive for 2 hour to 4 hour to 30-minute parking. It's managing parking instead of creating parking that's not that's not being used and built for you not being used properly.
Thanks. Are there groundwater mitigation plans to prevent flow into both creeks?
We flow into both creeks. We always do a storm drainage master plan for every building, from our rainwater leaders going to our storm management ponds that are built under the ground to ground infiltration units. That's an engineering thing that we've done in all of our units. We don't have the only overflow of ground water that goes to the creek is the environmental reserve lands go, as they always have, the 6 to 10 meters, potentially through grass and infiltration, as the world always has. Everything always flows to a creek. Those lands that have no chemicals or no nothing on, no salts, will flow to the creeks. The rest of our roof storm and our road storm all goes into treatment facilities and ground infiltration units. And Spring Creek is probably we have not only used geothermal for all our units, we also use non-chlorinated water for all our irrigation. We're the only community in probably Western Canada that has its own irrigation system throughout this whole thing, that we use groundwater for irrigation. We don't use chlorinated water like everyone else in Canada does for irrigation. And our stormwater is treated to the highest level through treatment and then in groundwater infiltration units. So nothing goes into the creek from roads or buildings.
Okay, so the next comment we have, the buildings look awfully close to the sidewalk and road, creating a tunnel appearance. Would it be more attractive if we had a bit more setback with perhaps planters and such to create a more warm feel?
Well, that's an opinion. I respect that, but we do articulate our buildings, and if you look at all the other buildings in Spring Creek, we do try and articulate them. The Malcolm Hotel has planters in front of it. They're not deep. They're 2 feet to 3 feet deep planters generally as we articulate the buildings. And the 2 new buildings that we'll build will have the same. But the town creating what we did in Spring Creek was creating this urban feel in the center and a rural feeling along the creek edge. So the urban feel is a 0 to 3 meter setback we do along Spring Creek Drive to create this urban sense of place, people walking, businesses, interaction, and then along the creek edge is that rural trail, 2.5 meter wide trail, landscaping, softness, creeks, balance. So that has always been part since 2002 to 2004 when we did our urban design guidelines to create what Spring Creek is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that 0 setback really does lend to creating that sense of space and that sense of enclosure. It really is best practice for this type of urban feeling. Like Frank said, the buildings themselves will be very interactive to pedestrians on the street, and it creates this sense of space, this public realm, that this almost enclosure that's really attractive for that pedestrian feeling. But yeah, it's perfect as well for this gateway area of the development. Okay, so we have next. Is a walkway planned behind the Alexander Hotel, and what about behind the R1 lots?
There is no walkway or trail planned. If you look at my area redevelopment plan, trail and master plan, the trail comes from behind the Malcolm Hotel and comes up to the road. Behind the Kernick Place Hotel, it does go behind the Kernick Place Hotel and join back up, and we've already built that partial of that trail. There's no trail plan behind the Alexander Hotel because there was never planned to be a public connection behind those, because it ends up joining up to 3 private homes at the back, and we want to respect their privacy and what they've always enjoyed, and not bring the public to their private space. So no public trail plan behind the Alexander Hotel. There will be 6 meters of environmental reserve space that will be protecting the landscape for the environment and for the creek edge.
There are already issues with visitor accommodations bringing more than one vehicle when they visit and parking on the side streets. How will this particular parking issue be addressed in the future?
Side streets of Spring Creek, I think people might be talking, I'm not sure. If they're talking farther down in the Muse roads as we go farther down. It's up to each condo board to manage their own parking. If they believe that people are not there, that are parking there, or not visiting the condo unit there, that's up to them to manage that. We do have a lot of parking in Spring Creek, and when we build these 2 future hotels, there will be that additional underground parking for those hotels. And my parking in the Malcolm Hotel and these 2 hotels are wide open parking. There's no restriction, there's no code you need to get in. All 3 hotels during the day, people will be able to, and we'll manage them through the Malcolm Hotel. We'll manage through conferences and underground. If it's a large conference, they will be able to use that parking during the day and for guests at night.
Just going back to the hotel, the R1 question again, not actually concerned with whether there are 230 or 240 rooms. Will you provide assurance that the R1 lots will remain R1 and not incorporate into Spring Creek Mountain Village as something different, for example, greater hotel footprint or R2?
100%, my word is my word. Everyone in town knows that. What we're showing on the plans is we're taking 5% or a little sliver of the land that wasn't our one lot into the Malcolm Hotel to make it perpendicular to the road. You can build a building, but it looks stupid if it has a weird angle. So that's the only reason we're doing that, for sake of construction purposes. Those 3 lots that we're taking to make 2 R1 lots will stay forever. 2 R1 lots as long as I own them. I can't, I mean, if someone else buys 1 lots from me and wants to try and do an application, but as long as I'm in control of that, they'll be R1 lots. And I see no reason. I plan to sell the one other lot that I have. I plan to build my own personal house long-term in the future on one of them. And I'll have our controls on those that would probably make sure it does stay R1 forever.
Okay, we live on 5th Street backing onto the creek, and at night the sound travels very well. Basically, any activity on the creek side will be heard. What mitigation measures are planned, not only for sound, but for light pollution as well? There are many nocturnal creatures who need the cover of darkness to hunt in this riparian zone. Okay.
I'm assuming they're talking about the Alexander Hotel. It is 90% guest rooms and a spa. The spa will be closed at night. It'll be closed probably by 8, 9 o'clock every night. So the lights will all be off in the spa on that hotel. And as far as the hotel goes, it will have a coach light on every outdoor patio, as we have on every house, a little small coach light for the patio. People want to go out in the patio for a little bit of period of time. It's not going to have like the Malcolm Hotel, a big conference center, or the Sterling Lounge or Sterling Grill. These are going to be 2 probably that they're really to feed the Malcolm Hotel, the restaurants and stuff in there. They will be very little, but there will be lights, and there will be patio lights for each patio. Someone wants to go sit in the patio. And the spa will be there, but it will be closed at night. It'll be closed by 8, 9 o'clock at every night. So it will function very well, and it'll work very well for very little light pollution, because we always do downlights. We don't do uplights. We do downlights that only light the patio itself. It doesn't light the surrounding area. And that's part of the Town of Canberra Land-Use Bylaw.
Yeah, and we do have those policies also worked into the landscaping plans for the area that, as Frank said, the correct lights are used so that they're not impactful to birds and other animals. So
we never light up the back of any of our buildings. The Malcolm Hotel is probably the only one that has been, because it's a commercial hotel, but all the other buildings, we always want to put lighting on the buildings on the front. We never put any lighting on the rear of the buildings facing towards the creeks. Only a coach light for the patio.
So I think we have covered most of them. There might be one or two others that I think, Frank, you've answered throughout. We'd just be duplicating the question. The last one that I have here is, what plans are there for employee accommodation?
Oh, wonderful. Someone asked that. I'm one of the there's only 3 of us developers in Canada that sort of agreed to do an employee accommodation. Myself, I think Three Sisters is going to do it in their future plans, and so is Ski, Turcotte, and Silvertip. I've always said I was going to do that. And no, Bull Valley Trail can build out 10 times more than Spring Creek, and there's no requirement. I've fought for that it's consistent through the whole town of Cameron. My bylaw actually says has to be consistent with the requirements of Bull Valley Trail. But I've always agreed to do employee housing. We use that right now, the trailers in Spring Creek, but I have been working on additional lands to build my staff housing, employee housing for the hotel, my seniors building, other businesses I own. I'm committed to employee housing and good quality employee housing long term. And you will see that in the next 5 years.
Well, I think that is all of the questions that we have. Oh, I'm going to just jump back into this again. Giving everybody the flashing screens just so we can get back to the end. So as we mentioned at the beginning of tonight's presentation, a recording will be made available on the Spring Creek ARP website. You can see the address here, that's springcreekarp.com. And I'll send out a copy of the recording to anyone who's previously emailed me for a link to the meeting. If you've not done so and would like a copy, you can email me. My address is here. And this is a tongue twister, mcnamee@mcilhenny.com. Always gets a good laugh whenever I start spelling that one out with the accent.
Can I just say one thing? I know we're going to load that up on the springcreekarp.com website, and haven't updated that in a while. I see my old bylaws on there from 2010 and ESPs. We will be doing that as well in the next week. So you can go on the Town of Cameron websites right now to get the current bylaws and current area structure plans. They have kept that more up to date than I have. I am planning to update my Spring Creek ARP website. I've had that since 2002. To keep all my reports and stuff on. It does need updating, but we will put this on there at the same time and update the bylaws and ASP at the same time. But if you want it before the next week, go on the Town of Cameron website for those documents. But we will get this video, and I need to update some of the bylaws and area structure plans on my current website as well. Just want to let everyone aware of that if you go on there, there are the older versions from 2010. And there's been a few updates since then.
Brilliant. Yes, we'll absolutely get those documents updated. We'll also send out, most of you should have received the feedback form in an email from myself before the meeting. Anybody else that's come in since that, I will send out the feedback forms again. And once again, if you are listening now or after on the recording, please let me know if you need a feedback form. Send those back to me. Like I say, like we said at the start, it's really important that we get your comments, your feedback. Everything will be included with their submission. And again, you will have another opportunity to provide your feedback and your comments with the public hearing of the application. So with that, I would like to say again, thank you so much for taking part. And as Frank mentioned, it's coming close to 3 a.m. here in Ireland. So I'm just gonna hop back into bed again. But thanks a million, and thank you, Frank, very much.
And I just want to say, I'm not sure who was all on here. We had probably 40, 50 people sign up, and thank you for your time. And you're also welcome to contact me directly anytime at frank@springcreekmv as in mountainvillage.com, or call me at 403-678-7839. Always open to discussion, a cup of coffee. This is a new world. We're trying to first somebody to do Zoom meeting. I usually do boards up in a community hall or something like that, but it's our new COVID world, and we're all trying to figure this out. And thank you for your time. Maybe a lot more time than you expected to spend on this, and whoever stayed with us, again, thank you. We're all trying to figure this out, and we do appreciate comment and input. So everyone, thank you and have a good night.